All right, welcome to part 4. And we are now in, Gen 3. We're at Hoenn now. Yeah, I'm actually being really redundant on the name. Okay, so how many games are there in Gen 3? Well, there's 5, because 2 of them are technically remakes of a previous generation, which, that this generation started that trend. Some of the differences, some things that were introduced in this generation are, well, for one, a much more color palette. It's a lot more like advanced because it's because this is originally for the Game Boy Advance. This is definitely some familiar territory. I'm about to enter good old Hucklebuck. And we know what Hucklebuck means to me. That's right. It is pretty much the area of my mother's house. So yeah, we'll be walking past my mom's house here in a little bit. Let's see here. But yeah, I think the main thing that Gen 3 introduced was a much better color palette, a banging sounding soundtrack. Like, the music in Gen 3 is so good. But I mean, everyone says it's nothing but horns and piano. Let's see here. What is also another major thing that introduced in Gen 3? Oh yeah, new battling mechanic. Double battles were introduced. Yeah, that became a thing from pretty much. Yeah, if you're challenged by more than one trainer, well, at least 2 trainers in this generation. Yeah, that's a double battle. I mean, 2 Pokemon are out on each side of the field at once, and battles go a lot quicker that way. Well, I completely redid that. I don't remember them redoing that. I think I'm gonna go down and I'm gonna loop around, and then I'm gonna I want to loop around the neighborhood at least once, so yeah, we'll do that. But yeah, double battles were introduced in this generation. Abilities were also introduced in this generation. They're usually just aids. It's just something that aids just different Pokemon in battle, whether like prevents like a weakness, or like buffs up their power by a certain requirement, or lowers like stats, or something like that, or prevents status inflictions. Just a whole bunch that this generation actually has done. Let's see here. What else is there majorly for the 3rd generation? I think that was the main things that I can remember about this generation that were like all the changes. A larger color palette, abilities, double battles, better sounding music. Oh, one thing I can actually talk about that was greatly expounded upon in this generation that everyone hated. Actually, a few things. One, all of the water. By the time you get to like somewhere between the 5th and 7th badges in that game, well, in these games, you're practically going to be on the water for about 95% of the rest of the game. It's ridiculous. Everyone hated it because of all the water. Because, all the surfing. Oh, mom's not home. Another thing people hated about this generation was that they thought it would be a main staple thing ever since, gold and silver. Is that there'll be more than one region. But for the main Gen 3 games, there was not. Although there was kind of like half of a region in the other two Gen 3 games, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Actually, like now. Because I don't want to make each part longer than like 12 minutes. So the main Gen 3 games, well, the 5 Gen 3 games were Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald. And then there's Fire Red and Leaf Green. In which, yes, this generation was the first to introduce remakes of older games. In this case, they were remakes of Japan's Red and Green. I guess you could say Red and Blue for outside of Japan, but whatever. So yeah, for the 3 of the 5 games, you're pretty much in Hoenn. The other 2, you're in Kanto. Oh, they took that tree down. Damn, I'm just like seeing that tree right there, but now it's not there anymore. So, Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald. Which of those games have I played the most? Well, this is actually the one generation I actually have barely ever touched. Which is kind of weird to say, but I mean, it's true. Like, I've rarely ever touched a Gen 3 game prior to within the last 4 or 5 years. Like, it's just, yeah, I've never. But what Gen 3 game do I recommend? I recommend you to play Emerald. There's a lot more shit in it. Because if you're playing Ruby and Sapphire... Oh, and there's also another thing. There's 2 evil organizations. 2 evil teams that you're going up against in this generation. In Ruby, you're going up against Team Aqua. In Sapphire, you're going up against Team Magma. Oh wait, no, I got it backwards. Ruby, you're for Team Magma. Sapphire for Team Aqua. And Emerald is a mixture of both. Which I think Emerald has the best storyline of a Gen 3 game. There are roaming legendaries in this generation. The main ones are the Lati twins. You can only get one of them during part of the post game. If you want the other one, and that's an event that you gotta have to be a part of many years ago. You can't do it much anymore. But yeah. So yeah, if you want a definitive Gen 3 game, play Emerald. For the Kanto remakes, for Fire Red and Leaf Green, those were actually the very first, well, more of Emerald, well, more like Leaf Green was the one that I played, it was like my first game. And I honestly loved it. It was a great game. I played it, I don't know how many times. But yeah. Alright, we'll see you in the next part.